Hanida stands alone in the dim bathroom, the flickering yellow bulb casting uneven shadows over her face as she leans closer to the mirror. She lifts a handful of her damaged hair, watching several strands fall slowly into the sink like wilted petals. Her scalp shows thin patches where her hair once grew thick and healthy. She tries to smooth it, tries to hide it, tries to believe it doesn't matter, but every attempt feels like another crack in her confidence. Her eyes fill with tears she pretends not to feel as she whispers to her reflection, "Why can't I be normal? Why can't my hair just stay?" The room stays silent, holding her pain like a heavy cloud. She sits on the edge of the bed, surrounded by bottles, hair oils, serums, masks, and medicines she bought with hope but used with fear. She massages her scalp gently, praying the treatment works this time. But as soon as she combs through, the broken strands scatter across her lap like tiny pieces of a defeated dream. Her breath shakes. She closes her eyes and holds her head tightly as if trying to keep the rest from falling. A quiet sob escapes her, muffled by her trembling hands. She cries silently, because even her sadness feels too heavy to let out loud. The bedroom door swings open, and Cameron enters with a storm on his face. He freezes for a second, only to let his eyes wander to the fallen hair on the bed. His lips curl with irritation, not concern. He folds his arms and sighs loudly, making sure she hears his annoyance. Hanida tries to hide the hair with her hands, but he steps forward, looking down at her the way someone stares at something broken and unwanted. She looks up at him with pleading eyes, hoping he will sit beside her, comfort her, or say just one kind word. But the anger in his expression tells her she should not expect any kindness tonight. Maya sank into her plush sofa, looking around her sunlit living room that overlooked the shimmering city skyline. Her hair, thick and flowing, caught the morning light as if it had absorbed every ounce of pain she had endured and transformed it into strength. Her mother sat beside her, smiling quietly, the two of them sharing a wordless moment of victory. For years, Maya had carried the weight of rejection, humiliation, and loneliness. Now, she carried something infinitely stronger: freedom, confidence, and control over her own destiny. Outside, London moved on as always, but inside this home, time felt still, sacred, and perfect. She ran her hands through her hair and smiled softly, thinking of the journey that had brought her here, the nights of tears, the moments of despair, the lottery win, and the love she had cultivated for herself. She whispered to her mother, "This is more than wealth, more than beauty. This is life I fought for." And as sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating every corner of her home, Maya knew one undeniable truth: life may break you, but it also gives you the power to rebuild yourself stronger, wiser, and more beautiful than you ever imagined. She had survived, she had risen, and she was finally home in every sense of the word. As Cameron's pleading voice faded outside the door, Maya leaned against the frame, feeling a quiet triumph wash over her. She reflected on every tear, every night of silent suffering, every humiliating word he had thrown at her, and realized that none of it could touch the woman she had become. Her heart no longer trembled for him, it swelled with the power of resilience. "A man who throws his wife out for her hair," she murmured softly, almost to herself, "would have left me for any reason." She thought of the lottery ticket, the new home, the charity events, the letters from women inspired by her journey, and the long nights spent nurturing herself back to life. All of it had led to this moment, a moment of freedom, dignity, and unstoppable confidence. Maya stepped back inside fully, her hair cascading around her like a crown, her eyes steady and calm. The door clicked shut behind her, echoing finality, and the sound resonated like a heartbeat of triumph. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. The past belonged to him, the future belonged to her. Every step she took inside was a step toward the life she had rebuilt, powerful, radiant, and unshakable. One rainy evening, as Maya sipped herbal tea in her elegantly lit living room, she heard a hesitant knock at the door. Her security team had already been alerted to her ex-husband's approach, but curiosity nudged her forward. She opened the door slowly and froze. There he was, Cameron, standing in soaked clothes, shoulders slumped, face pale and full of guilt. The man who had thrown her out in despair now looked desperate, small, and fragile before the woman he had wronged. "Maya." I made a mistake, he whispered, his voice trembling. I didn't understand. I was wrong. Please, give me a chance. Maya looked at him quietly, observing every nuance of his shame and regret, and felt the power of her own rebirth. The same man who had once dismissed her because of her hair now sought forgiveness, yet she remained unmoved. She straightened her posture, hair gleaming in the soft lamplight, and spoke with calm authority. You didn't break me. You only revealed my strength. And now, there is nothing you can do to change what I have become. Cameron's eyes filled with tears, realizing too late that she had risen far beyond his reach. Maya closed the door gently, not in anger, but in peace, and stepped back into the warmth of the life she had earned. Cameron sat alone in his small, dim apartment, scrolling through his phone when he stumbled upon an online article featuring Maya, a radiant, confident, wealthy woman smiling at a charity gala, her hair perfectly styled, her presence magnetic. His chest tightened, and he felt an unfamiliar pang of regret. He replayed the nights he had mocked her, the words he had spat in anger, and the cold door he had slammed on her back. The realization hit him like a thunderbolt. The woman he had discarded had risen higher than he ever imagined, not just in wealth, but in dignity, beauty, and power. Friends called him in disbelief. Have you seen her? She's incredible now. Even the neighbors who had once pitted him now looked at him with sympathy. He clenched his fists, jaw tight, as shame and envy battled inside him. Cameron realized that life had dealt him the bitter truth. He had lost everything because he failed to see the strength in the woman he had destroyed. The weight of his past cruelty pressed down on him, leaving him small and broken while she shone unstoppable, untouchable, and free. Maya stepped out into the bustling streets of London for the first time in months, her hair flowing in soft, full waves that caught the sunlight, glinting like liquid gold. She moved with a grace and confidence she had never possessed before, drawing the attention of everyone around her, not because of vanity, but because of the aura of someone who had endured storms and emerged stronger. Each smile she gave was measured, deliberate, and full of the quiet power of survival. She walked past cafes, shops, and crowded sidewalks, feeling the world notice her not for her wealth, but for the light she carried inside herself. Memories of Cameron's cruel words flickered through her mind, but now they no longer hurt. They had forged her, not broken her. Maya's every movement, every glance, radiated the truth. Beauty is not in what others think of you, but in the strength, resilience, and dignity you carry after being knocked down. People stopped and stared, whispers following her like a trail, but she paid them no mind. In that moment, she was no longer the girl he had discarded. She was a woman reborn, a living testament to courage, hope, and the power of self-love. Weeks passed, and Maya sat in her sunlit bedroom, running her fingers through the tiny, soft baby hairs that had begun to grow along her scalp. She could hardly believe it. What was once broken and weak now showed the first signs of new life. Every morning, she would stand before the mirror for minutes, tracing the gentle curves of her hairline, marveling at the small victory it represented. She thought back to the nights she cried alone, hiding under blankets while Cameron's words echoed in her ears, and realized how far she had come. Her treatments, her patience, and her unwavering hope were finally paying off. Slowly, the baby hairs grew thicker, stronger, and fuller, framing her face in soft waves that mirrored her inner strength. Maya's confidence bloomed along with her hair. She began wearing colors she had once avoided, laughing freely in her mother's company, and stepping outside with her head held high. For the first time in years, she didn't just see herself. She saw the woman she had fought to become, resilient, radiant, and unbreakable. In that quiet, golden morning light, she whispered to herself, I am rising, and nothing can stop me now. Maya walked slowly through the grand entrance of her new mansion, each step echoing softly against the polished marble floors. The air smelled faintly of fresh paint and roses from the gardens outside, but more than anything, it smelled like freedom. Every corner of the house reflected a part of her journey, the tall windows letting in golden sunlight, the luxurious living room, the spacious kitchen filled with warmth. Yet what she felt most was peace, a sense she had almost forgotten existed. She ran her fingers across the velvet curtains, smiled at the crystal chandelier shimmering above, and allowed herself to imagine a life without fear, without judgment, without rejection. For the first time, she realized that wealth and luxury were not what made her happy. It was being in control of her own destiny, being safe in her own skin, and seeing her dreams finally unfold. Her mother entered behind her, eyes wide with awe and pride. "You've done it, Maya," she whispered. Maya turned, brushing back a strand of her thick, healthy hair that now framed her face beautifully. "No, Mom," she said softly, "we've done it. This is just the beginning." And in that moment, surrounded by the life she had fought for, Maya felt a power stronger than any heartbreak, the power to rise, to shine, and to never be broken again. The next morning, Maya prepared to leave for her first meeting with the UK beauty brand. Dressed in a soft cream coat and elegant curls falling over her shoulders, she looked like someone who had rebuilt herself brick by brick. As she stepped outside, her security team opened the gate, and there he was again. Her ex-husband. He looked worse than before, unshaven, exhausted, and holding an old photograph of their wedding day as if it were the last piece of his life. "Maya, please," he whispered, his voice shaking. "Just talk to me." She didn't move. He stepped closer, tears forming in his eyes. "I lost everything after you left. The house, the job, even my friends." He swallowed hard, guilt burning through him. "I thought your bad hair made you a burden, but I was the burden. I was the problem. Not you." The words hung in the cold morning air. For a moment, Maya felt the old pain tug inside her, the nights she cried, the humiliation, the loneliness. But she also felt something new, strength, clarity, and dignity. "You didn't break me," she said softly. "You just showed me who I really was." He dropped to his knees, begging her for another chance, but Maya didn't bend. She leaned down slightly, her voice calm and steady. "A man who throws his wife out for her hair, will throw her out for anything." The crowd watching outside the mansion murmured in agreement. Her driver opened the car door, and without another word, Maya stepped inside. As the car pulled away, she looked back one last time, not with pain, not with anger, but with a quiet smile that said she had finally closed the chapter forever. Her future was waiting, and she was ready. Later that night, Maya sat in her grand living room, a space filled with warm lights, soft velvet furniture, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, yet her heart felt strangely quiet. She was sipping tea when her manager rushed in, excitement all over his face. "Maya, you won't believe this," he said, handing her a sleek white envelope sealed with gold trim. Inside was a letter from one of the UK's biggest beauty brands, the same industry that once rejected her for her damaged hair. They wanted her to become the official face of their new global campaign, celebrating real women and real struggles. Maya's eyes widened as she read their invitation: photo shoots in London, interviews on top UK morning shows, and $1 million contract. For a moment, she couldn't speak. A memory flashed before her, standing alone in the bathroom years ago, holding her broken strands, crying silently so her husband wouldn't hear. Now the world wanted her voice, her story, her strength. As she exhaled, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from a women's support group in Manchester. "Your story gave us hope. Thank you for showing that life can begin again." Maya felt her chest tighten with emotion. She realized her journey was no longer just about her hair or her ex-husband. It had become much bigger, a message for every woman who had ever been shamed for her appearance. She closed the letter gently, looked out at the city lights, and whispered to herself, "If they want my story, they'll get it. All of it." And with that, Maya stepped into a future she once believed she could never have. Maya stepped out of the black luxury car, her heels clicking softly against the ground as the massive iron gates of her new mansion opened behind her. The evening sun cast a golden glow on her smooth, newly grown hair, thick, shiny, and healthier than ever, the very thing she once cried for late at night. A crowd had gathered outside her home, neighbors, reporters, and people who once ignored her, all whispering her name with a mixture of shock and awe. But the moment that froze the air was when her ex-husband pushed through the crowd, breathless, sweaty, and trembling. He stared at her as if he was seeing a ghost, the same woman he had thrown out for having bad hair, now stood before him as a millionaire, draped in elegance. His voice cracked as he stepped closer. Maya. I made a mistake. Maya didn't flinch. She simply looked at him with a calm, unbroken confidence she never had before. You didn't make a mistake, she said softly. You made a choice. The crowd fell silent. Her ex-husband's face collapsed in shame, but Maya just turned away, her guards guiding her back toward the mansion. As she walked, she felt something inside her settle, a quiet, powerful peace. She had returned not for revenge, but to show the world that a woman's worth is never defined by her hair, her looks, or a man's acceptance. It is defined by her strength. And tonight, Maya shone brighter than ever. She walks through the rain until she reaches her mother's worn-down flat. With shaking fingers, she knocks. The door opens, and her mother's eyes widen in shock at her soaked, trembling daughter. Without asking a single question, she pulls Hanaida into her arms, wrapping her in warmth and love. Hanaida finally lets herself collapse into the embrace she has been craving for months. Her mother whispers gently, "You're safe here, my child. No matter what happened, you still have me." That moment becomes her first breath of peace. Days pass, and Hanaida forces herself to stand again. She begins taking small jobs, cleaning apartments, organizing shelves, babysitting children. The work is exhausting, but she pushes through it with quiet determination. Every coin she earns becomes a symbol of her rising strength. Her mother watches with pride, knowing that her daughter is slowly rebuilding her life, not with wealth but with courage. Every night, after long hours of work, Hanaida sits by the small window in her mother's home. The moonlight falls softly on her tired face as she looks up at the sky. She whispers her prayer, "One day, something good will happen to me. One day, I won't cry myself to sleep." Her mother listens from the kitchen, wiping her own tears quietly, praying for her daughter's broken heart to heal. One evening, on her way home from work, Hanaida stops at a small convenience store. She buys a 2-pound lottery ticket without thinking too much, almost as a joke, almost as a desperate wish. "Maybe life will smile at me once," she says softly to herself. She slips the ticket into her pocket, not knowing that this tiny piece of paper is about to change everything. Cameron finally breaks the tense silence with a sharp, bitter voice. "I'm tired of this. Every time I look at you, you're falling apart. Do you know what people say? They laugh at me for having a wife who can't even keep her hair." His words stab through her chest, leaving her breathless. Hanaida tries to speak, tries to explain that she's doing everything she can, but he raises his hand to stop her. "I didn't marry someone who looks like this," he spits out. Her heart sinks into her stomach as she realizes he sees her hair, not her pain. Without warning, Cameron grabs her wrist and pulls her to her feet. Her body trembles as he drags her to the door. She begs him softly, "Please, listen to me. I can get better. I just need time." But he doesn't care. He opens the door and pushes her outside into the cold night. Rain pours heavily, instantly soaking her clothes and her fragile, thinning hair. She stands there shivering, looking at him with tears mixed into the rain. He looks back one last time, without love, without hesitation, and slams the door shut. The sound echoes like a final sentence. The street is empty, silent except for the harsh raindrops hitting the pavement. Hanaida hugs herself tightly, her breath fogging in the freezing air. Her wet hair clings to her head, making the thinning spots even more visible. Passing cars splash water near her feet, but no one stops. She looks at the closed door behind her and realizes that in one moment, everything she built, every dream, every hope, has been thrown away. She stands under the streetlight, broken, drenched, and completely alone, trying to hold on to the last pieces of her strength.